Hey, Shadows listeners. If you're looking to make some extra income that also impacts people, then you need to look at becoming a certified leadership coach with Giant. If you don't already know, Giant has been in the leadership space for over 13 years. I got certified through Giant in 2018, and I've been teaching ever since. Just to give you some context, they used to own and operate the John Maxwell brands. They ran the LeaderCast conferences where Jim Collins, Henry Cloud, Malcolm Gladwell, and Simon Sinek, just to name a few, were regular speakers. They have over 500 coaches worldwide, working in over 127 countries, and are being hired by companies like Google, Chick-fil-A, Pfizer, Delta, and more. And yes, you can do this too. I know this might sound intimidating, but Giant will literally give you everything you need to start your own coaching business from scratch. You get hands-on training from top-level coaches to learn the exact methodology and tools that six-figure coaches are using. You get an all-in-one online platform to run your entire coaching business, even if you want to work 100% remotely. And you'll get to join a thriving community of coaches from all around the world. To get started, Giant is hosting a coaching business workshop to help you learn the ins and outs of how to build a successful coaching business. This is both for experienced coaches, consultants, and those who are looking to start coaching and consulting with little to no experience. If you want to hear the really good news, this whole workshop, it's free, 100% free. And you can reserve your spot by going to giant.tv/shadows. Why not give it a shot? What's better than making a positive change in people's lives and making some extra money in the process? Giant launches a new hiring cohort every month. Now, they only have 20 coaching slots available each month, so it's first come, first serve. So go ahead and make sure you reserve your spot. If you're ready to make an impact and get paid doing it, go to giant.tv/shadows, giant.tv/shadows.
You have made your bed, so now you have to lie in it. If you can't be nice, don't say anything at all. Why are you so fat? God damn it, how can you be so stupid? Those are the things I was told growing up. I had two parents that were married and two older brothers. And you would think that maybe we would have that nuclear, awesome family. And that's what it looked like to everyone else. We went to church together every Sunday. And then we came home, and what I call was the kicked the cat mentality. We were nice to everyone else, and then we got home and it felt like we shredded each other apart. And what's so amazing is how I didn't even know as a little kid. I had no idea that that's what was happening to me. I thought this was what everyone's house was like. I mean, isn't yours? What I didn't know is that there's two loving parents that love on their children. There's parents that talk to their children and show them what love looks like. And my parents didn't know how to do that. So let me take you back. So I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. And I literally thought that everything was like every house was just like mine. But it wasn't always like that. Up until I was about 5 years old, I was daddy's little girl. I was the youngest, the only daughter. I was with him all the time that he was home, which wasn't often. He worked a lot, but it was just fun. You know, he was a farmer, so I would go in the fields with him and sit in the tractor. And it was great. And then one day he shifted. I don't know what happened. And when I asked him about it years ago, obviously years later as adults, when I was an adult, he didn't know. He asked me, he's like, I don't know what was going on. And I said, Dad, how did I know? I was 5. It's more like what was going on with you. So what I learned over my lifetime is how our childhood experiences shape our adult decisions. Now, you might be asking yourself, there's no way. I mean, I can't look back at my childhood and think that, that kid bullying me, really shaped what I ended up as an adult. And I could say, well, good for you that it didn't shape you, didn't shape your decisions. But for most of us, it does. And we might not even know that it's happening. I didn't even know it was happening. So I grew up, I started drinking at 11, started getting into not fights, but girl things where you start rumors about other girls. You might push people, or you might talk behind each other's back, that type of thing in middle school. And then I got hurt. I broke my knee and I got depressed. And the pain was so unbearable that the painkillers didn't work. They actually made me sick to my stomach, or I vomited most of the time. So my mom said, well, just stop taking them. So there was no pain relief for me. So there I was in the middle of Iowa during winter. And I don't know if you've ever been to Iowa in winter. It's horrible. And on a farm, extremely isolating and cold. So there I am on the couch with my ice on my knee, day in and day out for 6 weeks. And at 13, I wanted to die. I really used to think about suicide and how that would end my pain. Because the pain that I was experiencing wasn't just my knee. The pain I was experiencing was deep down in my soul. When I started to recover and go back to school, because I couldn't go to school. When I started to go back to school, I tried to, make things better. I tried to put the smile on. I pretended that I wasn't depressed. I pretended that I wasn't in pain. And people thought I was strong. So I got that. Oh, you're so strong. Oh, it's good to have you back. But deep down, I was hurting. So I found alcohol to cover it up, to cover up that pain. Because if I drank, I didn't have to feel. So I did that my entire high school years. By the time I was 15, I was drinking daily. And by the time I was 16, I got my first and only DUI. And then my dad left right before my senior year in high school. And my mom fell apart. She was devastated. She was blindsided. She had no idea. She didn't see it coming. And yet I did. And so I had to become the parent. I had to take care of her. So yeah, I had to slow down drinking, which I did, but I didn't quit. Although I will say somehow, miraculously, I graduated high school with a 4.0. And I literally have no idea how. I was holding on to life by a string. And then I went to college and thought, okay, so I'm going to go to college to get my PhD in computer science and move to Japan because I have to get away from my family. And about a semester in, I was like, I cannot sit in front of a computer all day. This is not for me. So I quit, dropped out, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I hung out with some really great friends and they were like, let's get an apartment together. I mean, we're 18. Why not? We know everything. I mean, I'm sure those of you who are listening have never been 18 and thought you know everything. It's only me. No one else has ever thought that. But that's what I did. And I hung around some really great people, or so I thought. You know, when you come from a background of a family that didn't really feel like a family, and now all of a sudden you're surrounded by people who just want to be with you, it was kind of fun. I can now see, you know, when people hang in a large group and they cut everyone else out, why it's so enticing. Because you've created a family of friends. Now, did we get into trouble? Oh, yeah, we got into trouble. We did a lot of questionable things, did a lot of driving, questionable things that I shouldn't have been driving around. And thank God I got out of it. I was able to move. My dad had moved 4 hours away and he gave me an opportunity and he said, hey, why don't you move with me? And I was scared to death. And yet I did it. I took a leap of faith and I moved 4 hours away from everyone I ever knew. My whole life was in Iowa. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then a few years later, I met the most amazing man, or so I thought, which I think was what happens when we're in our early 20s, right? Now I was still drinking from, you know, the age of 13 on, and actually probably younger than that. But I slowed down. I wasn't drinking as much. And I met this great guy. We had fun together. We partied a lot together. And it wasn't until I noticed that he would disappear when we would go out. He would disappear for a couple, like maybe an hour, maybe a half an hour. And then he'd come back. And because we'd always go out with a group of friends. So there was always someone to hang out with. It wasn't just me by myself. Anyway, long story short, one morning he says to me, you know, you do really stupid things when you drink. And I said, got it. That's it. I'm done. I quit drinking. And what's so crazy about that is it didn't occur to me once that he was really talking about him, that he was the one who was doing stupid things. And then he pushed me. And that pushing, because I had two brothers and I learned how to fight and I was scrappy, I pushed him back. And that happened over and over and over. And it led from pushing to choking to punching to him holding a gun to my head twice, to him stomping on me with steel-toed boots on. And yet I didn't give up. I still fought back. And that was years. It was over a decade. It was 12 long years of torture. And yet something kept me. And I really needed to kind of know why I was there. What was I supposed to learn from this? When I had moved 4 hours away from everything I knew, I realized that there is no such thing as failing. There are only learning experiences. So it doesn't matter if you try something and it doesn't work out, you learned what not to do. So now I'm in this relationship and I'm thinking of all the things that ever been said to me, like, you made your bed, you have to lie in it. So I couldn't get out of this relationship. I was also thinking about how if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So what does that mean? Well, if you can't say something positive, keep your mouth shut. So I did. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say anything to anybody about what was going on at home until it was over. He was in a car accident and I was able to leave. And that is when my true self started to unfold, started to come out. I started to heal. I started counseling immediately within the first week. I started to read books. I started to really take stock of my life. And I learned so many things. And one of the things I learned was that it's when you're in a situation like that, when you're in any kind of relationship of a significant other, it is teaching you a lesson from something that's happened in childhood. And what I learned was that it was familiar. I mean, yes, I fought my brothers. Yes, I learned how to fight because of them. So when he was pushing me, what did I do? I didn't think, oh, I need to go get help. This is wrong. I thought, oh, I just have to fight back harder. All the things that he was like, oh, you're fat, or oh, you're this, or oh, you're stupid. Well, that's what I was told growing up. So isn't that normal? So now here I am learning that none of that is normal, that it's unhealthy. So there's a difference between healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. And I had no idea. I had gone my whole life living in an unhealthy relationship. So I had no idea what healthy looked like. But I was determined to find out. So I started to peel away the layers of the onion that I am, and heal each layer at a time. And when I tell you that our childhood experiences shape our adult decisions, that is when I learned that. Is as I healed, I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly like something my mom said to me. And I peeled away the next layer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something that my brother had said to me. And then the next layer was like, oh my, even my grandmother, like she used to say that. Wow, the information that we pass down through generations, we don't even realize is happening. And then until you have to learn, until it's in your face, you get to learn, not even have to learn, you get to learn, you get to heal if you choose. Now, statistically, I could have gone back into an abusive relationship because that's what happens. And I decided I need to know why this happened to me and to make sure that this never happens again. And as I was healing and going through this process, one of the things I learned, or I shouldn't say learned, I really was able to like look back and see myself as being, was a bully. I was a bully. Why was I a bully, you might ask? Well, why do bullies bully? Because they're hurt. And hurt people hurt people. So I started to share my story. I started to share the things that I learned with the people around me, with other friends, even my family. I started to talk to them differently, and not in an accusatory way or pointing fingers or blaming, shaming. It was just really like, this is my experience, what I went through as a child. And now that's why I was in that relationship, because I felt like I needed to explain myself, because I was finally, for the first time in my life, saying I was abused. And then you get that look like, how could you be abused? You're so strong. Anyone can be abused if you don't know it. So as I'm telling my stories and the things that I'm learning about myself, the craziest things started to happen. The people that I was telling them to, they would go away, or, call me later, a week later, a month later, whatever. And they would say, because of what you told me, I had a conversation with my boss or my husband or my coworker or my child. And now our relationship is shifted. Our relationship is better. So thank you for telling me what you went through and what you wish someone had told you so I could be better. And I thought, wow, what if, what a moment, right? What if the things that happen to us is actually happening for us? And that's when I really thought about that hurt people hurt people. And I thought, well, what if, I wonder if, not what if, well, I wonder if empowered people empower people. And that is when I decided to really take stock in my life. And I thought, you know what? I have been a survivor my whole life. And I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to thrive. I don't want to just set goals. I want to surpass goals. I used to sit and think and dream when I was in that relationship. I wonder what my life might possibly look like when I'm out of this relationship, because I knew one day he was either going to kill me or I was going to get out. I just didn't know how yet. And when you think about what's possible, what is how you can dream of what the future just might happen to look like, you're creating hope within yourself. And I can tell you, in multiple times in my life, from the broken knee to the abusive relationship to being so depressed and an alcoholic, that I have felt hopeless. So to finally grasp onto something and look forward to something instead of thinking this is all there is, that's never going to get better. I had something to look forward to. I have decided that there was something to be excited about, because that's all this is a decision, one decision after another. We get to choose who we are and how we show up, regardless of what happens to you in childhood, in adulthood, in relationships, at your job, anywhere. You get to decide. And that's the gift in life, is getting to a point that you are so aware of your own self and willing to see yourself and willing to do the work, that you now get to decide how you want to show up, how you want to be a leader. What steps do you want to take to move forward? Because I'll tell you, if you're stuck, there is so much that you don't even know is happening because you are stuck. But when you finally get out of unstuck and you trying to move forward, there's all this opportunity. And I used to set goals every year. And I might get those goals and I might not. And if I didn't, what happened? Well, remember all those things that was said to me in childhood? That came streaming back. How can you be so stupid? And I'm like, man, I'm never going to get ahead. And then I started to really listen to that voice in my head and what it was telling me. And was it helping me or was it hurting me? Was I still hurting, or was that voice empowering me to do something or to learn something or to heal or to just be? Or was my voice hurting me, taking me down? Was it negative? Was I beating myself up? And that was another layer I had to peel away and really learn that I'm in control of that voice. I'm in control of that thought. So our circumstances, our experiences in life create thoughts. And those thoughts then create feelings. And those feelings drive our actions. And our actions is what gets results. So we have to start with the mindset. We have to start with how we choose to move forward. Doesn't matter what happened to us. Doesn't matter what we're feeling. Because guess what? When you change your mindset, you can change your feelings. But you can't come from a place of thought and go, I'm going to go do that, because that's not how action works. Action is driven by your feelings. And for many years, I was so stuck in fear. I was so afraid. I was afraid. I was afraid to live. I was afraid to actually say, I need support. I need help. I was afraid to even admit what was going on. I was afraid to share. And fear shows up in so many different ways. And it's there to protect us. And it did its job. It tried to protect me. But now I'm like, no, I have to move forward. I have to let this fear go. And it's different for everybody. Proactive steps are different for everybody. And yet they work. And then you feel better about yourself. You start to feel empowered. And then you can't wait to share your story. Because empowered people empower people.
The one thing that I'm starting to find out about Rise from the Shadows is that it's really hard to come back from having a speaker deliver such, just a powerful message. Thank you, because it's, sitting there searching for things to say after somebody just pours themselves out there like that. So what a powerful, message you just displayed. I was just sitting there taking all kinds of notes and quotes, and so many good quotes that you just delivered to us. One of my questions for you, what would 2021 Shay say to high school version of Shay?
Be willing to ask for help. And what you're going through is not shameful.
Even in the military, and I'm sure it's in any occupation, asking for help, whether it's mental health or, just somebody to talk to, but it's kind of frowned upon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I've seen it, even teaching. I have students that come through the course, and I always bring up, mental health and the stigma behind it. It's ridiculous. And especially for younger kids. And you know how it is with parents. And it's like, if you're talking to another parent and they say, oh, well, my kid goes to a counselor or something, it's like, what's wrong with your
wrong
kid?
with the kid. Yeah.
But being a kid is hard. It's actually, in my opinion, probably more traumatic than being an adult at times.
Yes.
What advice would you have for parents out there that, sometimes you don't even know what's going on with your child?
So I just heard this in a book recently, and I love this because I used to say this when I actually started meeting other women who had been abused after I had started to heal. And it wasn't about what's wrong with you. It was asking them what happened to you. And it changes the conversation, because it's not putting blame on them. It's allowing them space allowing them permission to let whatever it is that's going on inside of them to come out.
Yeah, I told you about, before we started recording, about my daughter, and I'm going to give her a huge shout out, but she went into PE the other day, and this girl was crying, and she had been body shamed. My daughter was telling her like how beautiful she was, and not to listen to that, and I just started thinking about it, and I was thinking like, gosh, what if that was my daughter that went through something like that? Because I can guarantee her parents probably didn't even know that it impacted her as much as they did. But I think your message was amazing. I've always loved the hurt people. Something that, the past year or so of knowing you is something that I've kept in the back of my mind whenever I've seen stuff like that happen. But the empower people. I think it was a powerful message. And what was crazy about this episode was our schedules just weren't playing well together. And it wasn't until I had a little accident that we got on the phone, we were able to figure it out. You said you had changed your message a couple of times. What were some of the other messages that you were thinking of discussing?
Trust. And trust was a big one. I think that was, I don't even remember, last week, 2 weeks ago, but there was definitely trust. And I think the other one was willingness. And this one just came to me today and I was like, yes, that's what I'm going with. Yeah. And so, because there's just so many areas that we could, talk about. Fear, I think was one of them too. So I kind of weaved fear in there a little bit. But what's so interesting about what you said about your daughter is at the end of the day, and our deepest core in our soul, in our body, in our system that keeps us walking around, right? We all want the same things. We all have the same core needs. We want to belong. We want to be heard. We want to know that we're not alone. And we want to be loved. And so if parents can create that space, or if anyone can create that space for another person to share, you've given them permission to share. Yeah. And that's why counseling is so, if the child is willing to share, but the trust also has to be there. And, sometimes as children, they don't trust adults, especially if an adult hurt them. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I've got a couple of random questions for you, but I'm going to save those for our YouTube video. Okay. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, you need to go back to our YouTube channel, to the Shadows Podcast, check out the bonus content that we're going to have from this episode, where Shay's going to answer a couple of random questions. I might even let her throw a question at me, put me on the spot. And then I'll instantly regret it and I'll just delete it. But no, Shay, if they want to find out more information about you, where can you point them to?
Yes, thank you for asking. It is shasparks.com, SHASPARKS.com. My social media links are on there, but you can find me LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook at Sha Sparks. And what else can you find me? Oh, yeah. So I do have
your podcast,
my podcast, right? You can listen to my podcast, including Bodhi's episode on the power of investing in people podcast on all the platforms, including Audible, Amazon, everything, Apple, all the A's. And so you can also I also have a book, and I have a co-author book. Yes. And so I have a co-author book that I collaborated with some amazing creative thought leaders, including 2 Chief Master Sergeants. So I'm so honored to be included with them. And the book is at firestartersbookproject.com/Shay, SHA.
They're decent guys.
Yeah, they are.
They're not bad.
Yeah. They're pretty amazing. Just like you.
Yeah, they are. No, they are. They are amazing. Yeah. And you are too. And I appreciate you taking time to do this. I appreciate you taking time to be a guest here on Rise from the Shadows, folks. We will see you in 2 weeks with a brand new episode.